So the other day I turned on my miter saw and it sounded like it's making that. It was grinding itself to death and the bearing had gone out in it. So let me show you how I replaced it. Now to get the motor out, you need to take this cover off right here. But to get this cover off, you have to take the top of the handle off, which is actually easier because you need to take the wires loose first. So you take all the screws out of the top, and then the trigger will be sitting here. Be sure you take a picture of it before you move any of it so that you can get it back the way it was. And you can actually unplug the motor from here and take this off of the switch. Be sure you take a picture of where this goes back on the switch before you take it out. You take all that out, so then you just take the 3 screws out of the side of this. It'll come off, and you'll see 4 screws holding the motor on right here. Now what you don't see is in the very back, on the motor mount, right here is an Allen screw that screws in, and it tensions the belt. So you might have to back this off to get this to come out. But you back this off a little bit, the belt will come off, and then once you take these 4 screws out, the motor will come off. So take the 4 screws out of here in the front. Mine just fell off. Once you take the front off, you can then pull this out, and there's some brushes down there in the bottom, those black things. So you can't just push it back in. We'll put it back together later. Okay, so now what we gotta do is get this pulley off, and it's got an Allen head screw in the front. Hopefully I can hold it, okay, and get it to come out, because there's really not much. You can't put it in a vise or anything. You could wrap this with something and maybe put it in a vise gently. Now I've got this bearing puller that's made for this purpose. If I can find it for you, I'll link it in the description. Oh, that's just coming off hand tight right there. Don't lose that key. It slides in that groove right there. There's actually 2 keys. I just found the other one. There's one on each side. It's got a little ring here to keep that pulley from going too far back. So just start it up right there where it comes around. And then just gently, you don't want to tear this up. Just kind of keep pulling it up and out. Then once you get it out of the groove, it ought to just slide off of there. Alright, there we go. Alright, now this bearing, to get it off, hopefully we can get this under it and get that bearing off of there. It's coming. I just had to hold these sides in with these big channel locks. You could use a C-clamp on the sides. But look, the other side of that race came off too. That whole bearing just shot. Now the back bearing, it seems to be in good shape. I might go ahead and just replace it too. Usually you can see a size on the outside of the bearing, but this one's kind of destroyed, so I'll see what I can figure out. Okay, so since I can't find a number on this bearing anywhere, I'm gonna have to measure it. So I've got some calipers. These are just cheap calipers from Harbor Freight, and they work great. They're usually, you can get them for, $10 or $20, depending on if they're on sale or not. But most bearings you're gonna see are metric, and so just set it on millimeters, and so that's gonna be 42 millimeters. And then the inside is 15 millimeters, and it is 13 millimeters deep. Okay, so that bearing should be relatively easy to find. Now this back bearing, it has a number on it. I can't quite make it out, but it is 22 millimeters. Then we'll just measure the axle there. It's 8 millimeters, and it is 7 millimeters deep. Okay, and I'll see if I can find those. Well, I got my new bearing in, so all I got to do now is get it put back together. Of course, this slides back on here. Now, it's going to have to be pressed on there. Usually, you can take a socket. You want to get a socket that's no bigger than this metal part right here. You don't want to press on this black part. That's on the inside, because this one you can see is just a little bit bigger on the outside, but it's not, it's going to press on this part right here. And then you can tap that on with a hammer. I'm going to go out to the hydraulic press and press that on real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got that pressed on, and actually I didn't put it in the hydraulic press because I was going to have to adjust the shelf, so I just knocked it on there easily with a hammer. Then we got to put this little retaining ring back on. These things are always a pain. Okay, got it started. Alright, that's got that ring on there. Now we'll just put our keys in the keyway. Slide that pulley on. Alright, and I did replace this back bearing. Just pulled it off, put the new one on there. Alright, now this tricky bit, we got to get these back in there. Now we have to take the back off because we need access to these brushes right here. You can see one right there, and the other one right here, because we're going to have to be able to pull those back in order to get this armature in there. So we're going to slide it up in there gently like that, and we're already hitting one of these brushes back here. So we'll just, without scratching it up, we're going to take a screwdriver and push that in, and then hold that back. There we go. Alright, now holding on to that armature in the front, we can flip it over. We'll put the case on it. I had to go look, make sure I was getting the case on there right. So to make sure you get the case on there correctly, because they made it where you can put it on backwards. So the cord's this way, and the part that has this big screw right here where you would put the tension on the belt, that goes opposite to the cord. Get them all started before you tighten them all down. Okay, so with the bearings replaced, all I got to do now is get it put back together. Alright, so get all your screws in there and get them kind of snugged up, but not the least bit tight. You just want the slack out of them so this still moves easy. So there's a little screw back in here, and you want to loosen it up so that you get the motor all the way forward. Then you can get the belt on. Make sure you have it seated where it's down in all the grooves. And then we're going to tighten this up. You don't want this overly tight, but they tighten it down nice tight. Alright, now we got to get this put back together. So now, using the picture that I took, I'm going to get this put back together, because you got to get all the wires routed in the right place. There's this one wire you have to take loose, I got to put back. Alright, now that we got it all back together, let's see how it sounds. Sounds perfect. Well, I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for watching.